From wedding bells to living hell, I married a fool, and the consequences are destroying me. It started like any other fairy tale. We met in college, and from the moment I laid eyes on Daniel, I knew my life was about to change. He was charming, funny, and so incredibly handsome. We spent late nights talking about our dreams, our future, and how perfect we were for each other. Everyone saw us as the couple who had it all, the perfect chemistry, the perfect careers, the perfect love. When he proposed to me on our 3rd anniversary, I thought it was the beginning of a lifetime of happiness. "You're the one, Emma," he had said, looking at me with those soft, blue eyes that always made my heart race. "I promise I'll never hurt you. We're meant to be together." I said yes without a second thought. Our wedding was a dream. The kind of day you read about in magazines. Friends and family surrounded us, and I walked down the aisle in a dress I'd always imagined myself in. Everything felt perfect. It was the happiest day of my life, and I couldn't wait to start this new chapter with Daniel. But what I didn't know, what no one could have predicted, was that my happily ever after was nothing more than a facade. The first crack. It didn't take long for the cracks to start showing. At first, they were small, easily overlooked. Daniel would stay out later than usual with his friends after work, and he'd come home smelling of cheap cologne and alcohol. He'd tell me he was working late on a project, but his words never quite added up. One evening, I decided to follow him. My gut had been telling me something was off for weeks, but I had been too scared to face it. He loves me, I would remind myself. This is just a phase. But when I pulled up outside the bar where Daniel had parked his car, I saw him through the window. He was laughing, leaning in close to a woman I didn't recognize. Her hand was on his arm, and he was smiling in a way that made my stomach twist. I watched them for what felt like an eternity, my heart sinking with every passing second. It wasn't just the way they were sitting close, or the fact that she was touching him. It was the look in his eyes. The same look he used to give me when we first met. "No, this can't be happening," I whispered to myself, my hand gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. I couldn't shake the image of him with her. When he finally came through the door hours later, I was waiting for him. My voice was calm, but my heart was anything but. "Who was she?" I asked, my words laced with disbelief. He froze. For a moment, I thought he might deny it. He had always been a good liar. But instead, he looked guilty, his face flushing. "Emma, I can explain." "Explain?" I nearly shouted, but I kept myself in check. "Who was she, Daniel? Was she just a friend? Or is there more?" He hesitated. And in that moment, I saw it. The truth. The crack that had been forming beneath the surface, the one I had ignored for so long, was now wide open. "Her name is Lisa. She's an old friend from college." I didn't mean for it to happen, Emma. It was just a one-time thing. "Please, just let me explain." "A one-time thing?" I repeated, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "You've been cheating on me, Daniel." He reached out to touch me, but I pulled away. "I don't want your excuses. I don't want to hear it. You promised me forever. And you're breaking me." The descent into hell. I should have left right then and there. But I didn't. I stayed, hoping it was just a mistake, hoping we could work through it. I convinced myself that we could fix this, that I could forgive him. But the truth was, I wasn't forgiving him. I was lying to myself, hoping that things would go back to how they used to be. The next few months were a blur. Daniel tried to make it up to me with flowers, sweet words, and promises. He begged for my forgiveness, and part of me wanted to believe that he could change. But deep down, I knew. I knew the damage had already been done. I could never look at him the same way again. Then came the second betrayal. I found out about another woman, Megan. She worked at the same office as Daniel, and they'd been spending a lot of time together on business trips. This time, I didn't even need to catch him in the act. The evidence was clear in his phone. Messages, pictures, everything. "I saw your phone," I said, my voice eerily calm as I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, holding the device in my hands. "I know about Megan. You're still seeing her, aren't you?" Daniel's face turned pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He knew I was right. He knew I had caught him. And in that moment, I realized something that terrified me. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was numb. "I gave you everything," I whispered, my voice cracking as I sank onto the bed. "And this is how you repay me? By throwing it all away for someone else?" "I never meant for it to go this far, Emma," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I was confused. "It was just a mistake. I didn't mean to hurt you." "A mistake? You've made 100 mistakes, Daniel. 100 lies, 100 broken promises. And I'm still here, hoping you'll change, hoping you'll wake up and realize what you've done to me. But you never do." He sat down next to me, trying to comfort me, but I couldn't let him. I couldn't let myself fall for his words again. "You're not sorry, Daniel. You're sorry you got caught. That's all." I walked out of that house with nothing but my dignity left. My heart was shattered, but I knew I would never let him destroy me again. The life I had dreamed of with him was gone, but I was finally free to rebuild. I wasn't a fool anymore. And I was going to make sure I never became one again. As I stepped out the door, I could hear him shouting behind me, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart, even though inside, I was crumbling. I could feel the cold night air on my face, the sting of the wind against my skin, but it felt like a slap of reality. It was as if the universe had finally opened my eyes to the truth I had been refusing to see. I wasn't just walking away from him, I was walking away from the lies, from the broken promises, from the image of the perfect life I had once believed in. I pulled my phone out of my bag, my fingers shaking as I dialed the number I had been avoiding for so long. "Hello?" Emma's voice came through the line, filled with concern. "Emma? Are you okay?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but the tears came anyway. "I left him," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I finally left him." "Oh, my God," she breathed. "Are you sure? Is everything okay?" I wiped my eyes, even though the tears kept falling. "I'm done, Em. I'm done with the lies. I can't keep living in this hell. He's been lying to me for months. I'm not going to let him destroy me anymore." I could hear the relief in her voice as she exhaled sharply. "I'm so proud of you. You deserve so much better than him, Emma. You deserve someone who sees you, who respects you." "I thought he loved me." "I really did," I said, my voice breaking. "I thought we had something real. But I was just a fool. A fool who kept forgiving him, hoping he'd change. And he never did." Emma's voice softened. "It's not your fault. You gave him everything, and he took it for granted. But now you get to take back your life. You get to put yourself first." I let out a shaky breath, feeling a tiny bit of strength return to me. "I don't know what to do now, Em. I feel like I'm drowning." "One step at a time," she said gently. "Just take one step at a time. You don't have to figure it all out right now. Just breathe." I closed my eyes, trying to calm the whirlwind inside me. "I just need to get away. I can't be in that house anymore. I can't even look at it." "I understand. Come stay with me. You can stay here as long as you need. We'll figure it out together." The offer felt like a lifeline. "Thank you," I whispered, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over me. "I don't know what I would do without you." I packed a few things, not bothering to grab much. There was no need for me to hold on to the memories of that house, of the man who had promised me everything and destroyed it all. I threw a few clothes into a suitcase and grabbed my keys, walking out the door for the last time. The weight of my decision settled over me, and as I closed the door behind me, it felt like the first time I had taken control of my life in months. The drive to Emma's place was a blur. I didn't even know what I was thinking. My mind was numb, my body on autopilot. I kept replaying the last few hours over and over in my head, the words we had exchanged, the way Daniel had looked at me with those empty eyes. He hadn't even tried to fight for me. He hadn't even seemed to care. When I finally arrived at Emma's apartment, I felt a small sense of relief. She greeted me at the door, her arms wide open. "Come here," she said softly, pulling me into a hug. "You're safe now." I didn't realize how much I needed that hug until I was in it. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing like I hadn't allowed myself to in months. "I don't know what to do," I whispered through the tears. "I feel so lost." "You're not lost," Emma said, her voice firm but gentle. "You're just finding yourself again. And you will. I promise." We spent the next few days in a haze of coffee, late-night talks, and emotional breakdowns. I couldn't stop replaying the events of the past year, but Emma kept reminding me that I was not defined by what Daniel had done. "You're so much stronger than you think," she said one evening as we sat on the couch, flipping through old magazines. "I've seen you survive things that would have broken other people. You can survive this." But despite her words, the pain still lingered. I couldn't shake the image of Daniel's face, his words, the lies he had told. I had trusted him with my whole heart, and now, that trust was shattered. It wasn't until a few weeks later, when I started going through my phone, that I realized how much of my life had been consumed by him. Pictures, messages, memories, all reminders of a love that had never been real. I deleted it all, one picture at a time, one message at a time. It felt like I was shedding a skin that no longer fit me. Then, one afternoon, I got a message. It was from Daniel. "I made a mistake. Please, let's talk. I'm sorry for everything. I still love you." I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the reply button. A part of me wanted to scream at him, tell him what I thought of him, remind him of all the ways he had betrayed me. But instead, I put the phone down. I wasn't going to let him back in. Not this time. I had learned my lesson. I had taken back my life. And I wasn't about to let anyone, not even Daniel, take it from me again.